Hello and welcome. Find a safe shore, a place far from the water's edge. Tonight, we are embarking on a voyage to some of the most enigmatic and feared locations on our planet. We are not just visiting islands, we are visiting legends. We are exploring the chilling concept of the island of no return. There is a unique and powerful allure to a remote island. It is a world in miniature, a self-contained ecosystem, a place where life can evolve in isolation, creating species and landscapes found nowhere else on Earth. We think of places like the Galapagos, islands that are cradles of life, living laboratories of evolution. They represent discovery, wonder, and the beauty of the natural world. But there is a darker side to this isolation. For every island that is a cradle of life, there is another that is a tomb. Throughout history, sailors and explorers have returned with stories of strange, unsettling islands, places that appear on no map, places that seem to beckon from the mist, only to vanish upon approach, and most terrifying of all, places from which those who land never, ever return. These are more than just uncharted territories. They are geographical black holes, places that seem to operate under a different set of physical laws, places that swallow people whole. Tonight, we will journey to two such islands, separated by oceans and cultures, but united by a single, terrifying reputation. Once you set foot on their shores, you will never be seen again. First, we will travel to the searing, desolate heart of northern Kenya, to a vast, jade-green body of water known as Lake Turkana. In the middle of this lake lies a barren, volcanic island, a place of shimmering heat and profound silence. The local people call it Envatnet. In their language, it means simply no return. It is an island whose entire population once vanished without a trace, and whose curse is said to claim anyone foolish enough to ignore the warnings. Then, we will sail into the frigid, stormy waters of the North Atlantic, to a place that is not just one island, but an entire phantom archipelago. We will explore the enduring mystery of the Isle of Demons, a legendary landmass that appeared on maps for over 100 years, a place said to be populated by monstrous demons and vengeful spirits that would torment and destroy any shipwrecked sailors who washed ashore. We will delve into the harrowing, real-life survival story that may be the source of this terrifying legend. We will analyze the folklore, the historical accounts, and the modern scientific investigations that have attempted to solve the riddles of these islands of no return. We will ask the critical questions. Are these just cautionary tales, maritime folklore designed to warn sailors away from dangerous waters? Are the disappearances the result of explainable natural phenomena? Or are we dealing with something else? Places where the veil between our world and another is thin. Places that are, for reasons we may never understand, truly fundamentally cursed. So check your charts and say your goodbyes to the mainland. Our voyage to the islands of the lost begins now. Our first destination takes us to one of the most remote and inhospitable regions on the African continent, the Turkana Basin in northern Kenya. This is a land of stark, brutal beauty, a sun-blasted landscape of volcanic rock and desert sands. At its heart lies the world's largest permanent desert lake, Lake Turkana, also known as the Jade Sea for the stunning, otherworldly green color of its waters. The lake is dotted with several volcanic islands, but one, in particular, is held in a state of profound fear and superstition by the local tribes, the Almolo, the Rendil, and the Turkana people. It is a small, low-lying, barren island, roughly 3 miles long. It is covered in volcanic rock, gnarled, skeletal trees, and mysterious, conical rock formations that rise from the ground like ancient, forgotten idols. From a distance, it shimmers in the intense heat, a hazy, almost dreamlike presence on the water. This is Envatnet Island, and its name, in the local El Molo language, is a stark and simple warning: no return. The foundational legend of Invatnet, the story that is told in hushed tones around the firesides of every village on the shores of Lake Turkana, is the story of its vanished people. According to the oral history of the El Molo, one of the smallest and most ancient tribes in Kenya, the island was not always deserted. Many generations ago, a group of El Molo families, perhaps seeking to escape conflicts on the mainland, migrated to the island. They established a small, thriving community. They built their simple, domed huts from palm fronds and animal hides. They lived off the abundant fish in the lake giant Nile perch. Tilapian they traded with their kinsmen on the mainland. Their relatives on the shore would see the smoke from their cooking fires rising into the sky each day. They would see their fishing boats out on the water. Communication was regular. But then, one day, the smoke from the cooking fires stopped. The fishing boats were no longer seen on the lake. After several days of this unnerving silence, the elders on the mainland grew concerned. They gathered a group of warriors and sent them across the water in a canoe to investigate. When the warriors landed on the shores of Invatnet, they were met with a scene of absolute, eerie stillness. The village was completely intact. The huts were all standing. Inside, they found the tools of daily life: fishing nets, cooking pots still filled with dried fish, ornaments and personal belongings, all left exactly where they should be. But of the people there was no trace. The entire village, every man, woman, and child had vanished. They searched the island meticulously. There were no bodies. There were no signs of a struggle, no blood, no evidence of a raid by a rival tribe. There were no footprints leading away from the village. It was as if the inhabitants had simply been plucked from existence in the middle of their daily lives. The warriors, terrified by the profound wrongness of what they had found, fled the island and returned to the mainland with their chilling story. From that day forward, Invatnet became a place of taboo. It was declared a cursed land. No one was to set foot on its shores. The local people believe that the island is home to a powerful, malevolent spirit, or perhaps a city of demons that devours anyone who dares to trespass. They speak of strange, ghostly lights that can be seen hovering over the island at night, of eerie, disembodied voices and screams carried on the wind, and of a strange, shimmering, mirage-like city that sometimes appears in the heat haze above the island. A city of shining towers and strange architecture, which they believe to be the home of the island's demonic inhabitants. This ancient legend might be dismissed as simple folklore, a cautionary tale. But the curse of Invatnet did not end with the vanished village. The modern story of the island begins in 1935, with the arrival of a British explorer named Vivian Fuchs. Fuchs, who would later become famous for leading the first overland crossing of Antarctica, was conducting a geological expedition of the Lake Turkana region. He was a man of science, not superstition. He was intrigued by the local legends of the Island of No Return and decided to investigate. He sent two of his young colleagues, a geologist named Martin Skeffleys and an astronomer named Bill Dyson, to the island to conduct a survey. Skeffleys and Dyson were experienced, capable men. They were well equipped for the harsh environment. They established a camp on the island and, for the first few days, all was well. Fuchs, who was camped on the mainland, could see their signal fires on the island each night, a prearranged signal that all was well. Then, on the 15th day of their expedition, the signal fire did not appear. Fuchs waited. Another night passed, and still no fire. A growing sense of dread filled him. He tried to hire local boatmen to take him to the island, but they all refused, terrified of the island's curse. Finally, Fuchs managed to secure a boat and went to the island himself. What he found was a chilling echo of the ancient legend. The camp was deserted. The tents were standing. Their scientific equipment was all there. Their notes and geological samples were neatly arranged. But of Skeffles and Dyson, there was no trace. Fuchs and his team conducted an exhaustive search of the small island. They found nothing. No bodies, no signs of a struggle, no indication of what could have possibly happened to the two men. They had simply vanished. A massive aerial search was later conducted, with planes flying low over the island and the surrounding lake. They found no sign of the men, no sign of a boat, nothing. The disappearance of Martin Skeffles and Bill Dyson remains officially unsolved to this day. The event cemented the island's terrifying reputation in the modern world. It was no longer just a local legend. It was now a documented, modern mystery. What could have happened to them? The conventional explanations are, of course, the most likely. They could have been attacked by one of the lake's enormous Nile crocodiles, which are known to be aggressive. They could have tried to leave the island in a boat that capsized in one of the lake's sudden, violent storms. Their bodies could have been swept away by the currents or devoured by predators. These are all plausible scenarios, but they don't explain why no trace of them, or their boat, or any of their equipment was ever found. And they don't explain the uncanny parallels with the ancient legend of the vanished village. In the decades since the Fuchs expedition, the mystery of Envatnet has only deepened. While the island remains strictly off-limits, a few have dared to approach its shores. Pilots flying over the island have reported sudden, inexplicable instrument failure. Researchers trying to study the island from a distance have reported strange electromagnetic anomalies. And the local stories continue. The El Molo speak of a strange, gaseous substance that sometimes vents from the volcanic rock, a gas that can cause disorientation, hallucinations, and even death. They describe a hissing sound that sometimes emanates from the island's conical rock formations. The curse of Envatnet is a profound and primal one. It is the fear of simply ceasing to exist. It is a place that suggests that the world contains vacuums, geographical anomalies where the rules of cause and effect break down, and where people can be erased from reality without a trace. Whether the cause is a natural geological phenomenon, a localized toxic gas, or something far stranger and more paranormal, the island of Envatnet lives up to its name. It is a place that does not give back what it takes. From the hot, dry, and very real island in Kenya, our next voyage takes us into a realm that is colder, wetter, and far more ethereal. We are sailing into the frigid, stormy waters of the North Atlantic, in search of an island that may, or may not, have ever existed. We are hunting for the Isle of Demons. For over 100 years, from the early 16th to the mid-17th century, a mysterious and terrifying island appeared on many of the most respected maps of the New World. It was usually depicted as two separate islands, located off the coast of what is now Newfoundland, Canada. On these maps, it was given a chilling name, the Isle de Demons, the Isle of Demons. The mapmakers and cartographers of the Renaissance were not given to flights of fancy. Their maps were the cutting edge of science and exploration. And yet, for over a century, they consistently included this island of horror. The legends that accompanied the maps were even more terrifying than the name. The Isle of Demons was said to be a place of unimaginable torment, a purgatory on earth. It was populated, the stories claimed, by a host of monstrous demons, vengeful ghosts, and other foul spirits. Sailors who were unfortunate enough to pass too close to its shores reported hearing a cacophony of horrifying sounds carried on the wind, the shrieks of the damned, the laughter of demons, the screams of torment. They believed these were the voices of evil spirits that would lure ships towards the island's rocky shores, causing them to wreck. Any sailor unlucky enough to be shipwrecked on the island was said to be set upon by these demons, who would torment them, drive them mad, and eventually tear them limb from limb. The island was a trap, a place of no return, guarded by the legions of hell. For centuries, the Isle of Demons was considered to be just that, a legend, a piece of maritime folklore, a "here be dragons" warning on early maps, perhaps a way to explain the very real dangers of the foggy, treacherous, and iceberg-filled waters of the North Atlantic. But there is a real, documented, and incredibly harrowing historical event that may be the source of this terrifying legend. It is a story of love, betrayal, survival, and a real-life haunting. It is the story of Marguerite de la Roque. Marguerite was a young French noblewoman in the 1540s. She was the niece of Jean-François de la Roque de Roberval, a nobleman and privateer who was a close friend of King Francis I of France. In 1541, Roberval was commissioned by the king to lead a colonizing expedition to the newly claimed territories of Canada. Marguerite, a young and adventurous woman, joined him on the voyage. On the long journey across the Atlantic, Marguerite, who was unmarried, began a passionate love affair with one of the young officers on board. Their affair was discovered, and Roberval, a man described as a strict, puritanical, and ruthless leader, was enraged. He saw Marguerite's actions as a stain on his family's honor and a threat to the moral order of his expedition. His punishment was swift and unimaginably cruel. As the ships were sailing past a small, remote, and uninhabited island off the coast of Quebec, Roberval ordered Marguerite, her lover, and her loyal maidservant to be cast away. They were marooned, left to die on this desolate island in the middle of nowhere. They were given a few supplies, a musket, some gunpowder, and a few tools, and then the ships sailed away, leaving them to their fate. What followed was a story of incredible hardship and survival. But it was also, according to Marguerite's own account, a story of a relentless paranormal assault. From the moment they were left on the island, they felt they were not alone. They were tormented, day and night, by what Marguerite described as demons and evil spirits. They would hear horrifying shrieks and inhuman laughter coming from the dark woods that covered the island. Shadowy, bestial figures would flit between the trees at the edge of their camp. They felt a constant sense of being watched, of a malevolent presence that was toying with them, trying to drive them insane. Tragedy soon struck. The young officer, weakened by the harsh conditions and the constant terror, died. Then the maidservant also perished. Marguerite was left completely alone. And then she discovered she was pregnant with her lover's child. She managed to survive through the brutal Canadian winter, hunting animals with the musket and living in a small cave. She gave birth to the child, but the baby, unable to survive in the harsh environment, soon died as well. Now, Marguerite was truly, utterly alone, surrounded by the graves of her lover, her maid, and her child, and haunted by the demons of the island. For over 2 years, she survived in this personal hell, fighting off starvation, the cold, and the constant psychological torment of the island's unseen inhabitants. Her salvation finally came, miraculously, in 1544. A group of Basque fishermen, who had been blown off course, happened to pass by the island. They saw the smoke from her signal fire and, believing it to be the camp of fellow sailors, they landed. They found a wild figure, dressed in animal skins, who turned out to be the long-lost French noblewoman. They rescued her and took her back to France. Her story became a sensation. It was recorded by the Queen of Navarre in her famous collection of stories, the Heptameron. Marguerite's Island, the site of her incredible ordeal, became known as the Isle of Demons. Her personal, terrifying account of being haunted by evil spirits became the foundation of the legend that would appear on maps for the next century. Her story and her island became a symbol of a place of no return, a place where the forces of darkness held sway. But what was the island? And what were the demons that tormented her? Historians have identified Marguerite's Island as a real place, likely Harrington Island, a remote and rugged island in the Gulf of St. Lawrence. It is a place known for its harsh weather, its strange, echoing acoustics, and its abundance of seabirds and seals, whose loud, almost human-like cries could easily be mistaken for the shrieks of demons by someone in a state of extreme terror and grief. The scientific explanation is that Marguerite's demons were not paranormal. They were the product of a mind under unimaginable stress. She was suffering from starvation, isolation, extreme grief, and likely post-traumatic stress disorder. Her experiences were vivid, terrifying hallucinations, her brain's way of personifying the immense suffering she was enduring. And yet, her story is so powerful, so specific, that it has never entirely shed its supernatural aura. Was it possible that the island itself, a place of such profound isolation and despair, was genuinely haunted? Was it a place with a pre-existing negative energy that her own trauma amplified? Could her own grief and terror have attracted something, some malevolent, opportunistic force that fed on her despair? The Isle of Demons, unlike in Vaitnat, is a place where the boundary between psychology and the paranormal becomes hopelessly blurred. It is a place where a real, historical trauma gave birth to a legend, and a legend, in turn, defined a place on the map as an island of no return. It teaches us that sometimes the most terrifying demons are the ones we carry inside us, and that the most inescapable island is the one created by our own grief. We have now visited two very different islands of no return. Vaitnat in Kenya, a physical, tangible place whose curse is one of utter, inexplicable disappearance. And the Isle of Demons in Canada, a semi-mythical place whose curse is one of psychological torment and a haunting born from human cruelty. One is a story of a group vanishing. The other is a story of a single survivor. One is a mystery of the physical world. The other is a mystery of the human mind. Yet, they both speak to the same deep primal fear, the fear of a place that will not let you leave. So, what are we to make of these stories? What are the underlying theories that attempt to explain the enduring power of the island of no return archetype? The first and most rational explanation is what we can call the natural dangers hypothesis. This theory posits that there is nothing paranormal about these islands at all. They are simply places with extreme and often hidden natural dangers. The stories and curses are a form of folklore, a pre-scientific way of encoding a warning. In the case of Vaitnat, the curse could be a way of explaining very real threats. The lake is known for its sudden, violent storms that can appear with no warning, easily capsizing a small boat. It is infested with some of the largest and most aggressive Nile crocodiles in the world. Perhaps the vanished villagers and the two scientists were simply victims of a storm or a predator attack, their bodies lost to the deep, murky waters of the Jade Sea. The more exotic natural explanation points to the island's volcanic nature. Could there be intermittent, localized vents of poisonous or hallucinogenic gas, like carbon dioxide or hydrogen sulfide, seeping from the ground? A sudden, odorless gas leak could easily kill an entire village in their sleep, or cause explorers to become disoriented, hallucinate, and wander to their deaths. For the Isle of Demons, the natural dangers are equally apparent. The North Atlantic is a brutal environment. The waters are freezing, the weather is unpredictable, and the coastline is a maze of rocky, fog-shrouded islands. The demons of the legend were likely the real-world dangers of hypothermia, starvation, and the psychological collapse that comes from extreme isolation and grief. The legend of the island was a powerful metaphor, a way for sailors to give a name and a face to the formless, existential terror of being lost at sea. This theory is logical, compelling, and likely explains a great deal of the mystery. But does it explain everything? Does it explain the reports of strange lights over Envatnet? Does it explain why no wreckage of Skeffley's and Dyson's boat was ever found? Does it fully capture the specificity of Marguerite's paranormal torment? This leads us to our second category of theories, those that embrace the paranormal and the speculative. This is the vortex or weak spot hypothesis. This idea suggests that certain places on Earth, for reasons we don't understand perhaps related to unique geological or electromagnetic properties, are weak spots in the fabric of reality. They are places where the veil between our dimension and others is thin. In this view, an island like Envatnet could be a geographical black hole, a place where people don't just die, they are translocated. They accidentally stumble through a portal into another reality. This would explain the complete lack of bodies or evidence. The people are not dead. They are simply elsewhere. The strange lights and the shimmering phantom city reported by the El Molo could be brief, visual bleed-throughs from this other dimension. For the Isle of Demons, this theory takes a slightly different form. Perhaps the island wasn't a portal, but a place where the veil was thin enough to allow malevolent, non-physical entities to interact with our world. The demons that tormented Marguerite might not have been hallucinations. They could have been real, interdimensional predators, attracted to the intense emotional energy of her suffering. This is, of course, a highly speculative theory, one that steps firmly into the realm of science fiction. But it is an attempt to create a framework that can account for the high strangeness elements of these stories, the elements that the simple natural dangers theory struggles to explain. Finally, we have a theory that bridges the gap between the psychological and the paranormal. This is the idea of the genius loci, or the spirit of a place. This theory proposes that a location, especially a place of intense natural power or one that has been the site of great human emotion, can develop a kind of consciousness and animating spirit. An island, being a distinct and isolated world, is a prime candidate for developing a powerful genius loci. The spirit of Envatnet, a place of stark, volcanic power, might be ancient, non-human, and deeply territorial, viewing any human presence as an intrusion to be erased. The spirit of Marguerite's island might have been a neutral, wild spirit that was tainted and twisted by the intense human cruelty and suffering that was brought to its shores, becoming the demons of her story. This theory suggests that the curse is not just a story we tell about a place, but a real, interactive intelligence that resides within the place itself. It is the land itself that is hostile, the island itself that is the monster. From the shores of a volcanic lake in Africa to the icy waters of the North Atlantic, the story of the island of no return is one of humanity's most enduring and terrifying archetypes. It speaks to our fear of the unknown, our anxiety about our place in a world that is often hostile and unforgiving, and our terror of being utterly, completely alone. Whether these islands are cursed by natural dangers, interdimensional portals, or their own sentient spirits, they serve as powerful reminders that our maps are incomplete. There are still blank spaces, places where the world as we know it ends, and something else begins. And sometimes, the most important direction on any map is the one that tells you where not to go. And now, I want to turn the navigation over to you. What do you believe is the truth behind these islands of no return? Are they simply misunderstood places with natural dangers, their legends born of fear and folklore? Or do you believe that some places on this earth are genuinely anomalous, places that operate under a different set of rules? Which of these stories do you find more unsettling? The absolute, physical vanishing on Envatnet, or the psychological, spiritual torment on the Isle of Demons? Let me know your thoughts, your theories, and any stories you might know of similar forbidden places in your own local lore in the comments below. If you found this voyage into the heart of mystery to be a compelling one, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Your support is the wind in our sails that allows us to continue exploring these uncharted waters. And be sure to click that notification bell so you won't be left behind when we set sail for our next destination. Thank you for joining me on this journey tonight. Until next time, be wary of the distant shore. Not every island is a paradise, and not every journey has a return trip.